All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at something pretty wild, a handheld AI translator that claims to break down language barriers, like right then and there.
Yeah, in real time.
So picture this. You're in a Moroccan market.
Oh, I love those.
Right. Bustling, vibrant languages swirling around you, but you don't need a phrase book anymore. You pull out this little device, speak into it, and bam, it translates what you're saying with 98% accuracy, they say.
Like instantly.
Pretty much. Supposedly like half a second delay. But get this, it even works offline, at least for some languages. So even if you're off the grid up in the Himalayas or something.
Wow, so no Wi-Fi, no problem. That's impressive.
It really is. And we're not just talking about a few tourist phrases here. This thing boasts support for over 137 languages, covering over 200 countries. Plus, it can translate text from pictures, too, like menus, signs, even handwritten stuff.
Using a camera.
Yep, built-in 8-megapixel HD camera, they say.
That's incredible. It's like having a superpower right in your pocket.
Exactly. But here's where it gets even more interesting. It's got ChatGPT built in, so it's not just translating word for word. It's actually trying to understand the context of what you're saying. So instead of just saying, I'm hungry, it could recommend a restaurant based on your location and what you like.
So it's more about understanding meaning, not just words.
Exactly. But of course, we got to ask, does it actually live up to all the hype?
Right. And all sounds amazing on paper.
So we dove into the Amazon reviews to see what real people are saying.
Always a good place to start.
For sure. And one reviewer, Andrea Notarickley, she was raving about how this device totally saved her trip. She was traveling in places with spotty internet, and it still worked great.
Offline, like we were saying.
Exactly. Another user, Melody, she was really impressed with how natural the conversations felt, even with different accents.
Oh, that's key. Accents can be a real challenge for these translator apps.
Absolutely. But it sounds like this one might actually be able to handle that.
That's promising.
Though on the flip side, there was another reviewer, Lena. She was a bit concerned about the performance without Wi-Fi. Said the accuracy and speed were limited.
So maybe not quite as perfect as they claim.
Right. Always good to be a bit skeptical. Plus, everyone's experience is going to be different, right?
For sure.
But before we go too deep into the pros and cons, I kind of want to zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture here. I mean, this kind of technology, it could really change how we communicate globally.
Yeah, the potential is huge. Think about it. This device could break down barriers in business, education, even personal relationships.
It's mind-blowing. Imagine a world where you could effortlessly connect with people from all over the world, no matter what language they speak, collaborate on projects, share ideas, build relationships, all so easily.
Absolutely. It's like science fiction becoming reality.
But it also raises some interesting questions, like what happens to language learning? If we have instant translation at our fingertips, will people still feel the need to learn new languages?
That's a good question. Will we all just get lazy and rely on technology? Or could it actually help us learn languages better? Some people think having that real-time feedback on your pronunciation and grammar could be a really valuable tool.
Right, like having a personalized language tutor. That's a fascinating way to think about it. Maybe it's not about replacing language learning, but changing how we approach it.
It could be like having a coach right there with you, helping you learn. But for now, let's stick with this device. That offline mode, I really want to dive into that.
Yeah, me too. It's a big deal, especially if you're somewhere remote. Like imagine trekking through the Amazon. You could actually chat with locals in Portuguese without needing internet.
Right. So helpful. And actually, the device has offline support for a good chunk of South America, both Spanish and Portuguese.
Wow, so you could be hiking in the Andes, ordering street food in Quito, all offline. That opens up so many possibilities.
It does. And, Europe's covered, too. They've got French, German, Italian, even Dutch offline. Picture yourself biking through the French countryside, stopping at a bakery and ordering a croissant, all in perfect French, no Wi-Fi needed.
That's the dream. And it's not just about practicality, it's about connecting with people, even if it's just basic phrases. It makes the whole travel experience so much richer.
I totally agree. Those little interactions can really make a trip. But what about Asia? They've got offline Mandarin Chinese. Imagine navigating Beijing or exploring temples in Thailand, all offline.
That's incredible. It's amazing how this tech can bridge those cultural gaps.
Yeah.
What about Korean? Is that offline too?
Not yet, but they do have it online, so as long as you have data, you're good to go.
It's pretty exciting to think about. So this offline mode, are there any limitations? I mean, it can't be perfect, right?
Well, it's definitely not as powerful as online translation. You might run into issues with really complex sentences or regional dialects.
So you still got to be careful and not rely on it completely, especially offline.
Absolutely. And battery life is something to keep in mind, too. Offline translation can drain the battery pretty quickly.
Good point. Always got to pack that portable charger. But okay, let's shift gears a bit. We talked about Christina using this for business, but what about the bigger picture? How could this impact global commerce?
It could be huge. Imagine no more language barriers in international business. Companies could make deals, collaborate on projects, build relationships across borders, all so much easier.
It could really level the playing field for small businesses, too. Opens up a whole world of opportunities.
Exactly. And it's not just about transactions. It's about building trust and understanding. When people can communicate clearly, they're more likely to find common ground and work together.
So a more connected world and a more collaborative one, that's pretty powerful. But are there any downsides? I mean, this is all pretty new. There's got to be some challenges, right?
Of course. One thing that comes to mind is data privacy. This device is constantly listening and translating, so what happens to all that data?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of how our information is being used. Always got to check that privacy policy. But okay, enough serious stuff. Let's talk about the fun side. Remember, this thing has ChatGPT, so it's not just about translating, right?
Right. It can understand context, give you recommendations, even chat with you. Imagine asking it for the best local restaurants or hidden spots to check out in a new city.
That would be awesome. Like having a personal tour guide tailored to your interests. Plus, you could learn about local culture and customs, too.
Yeah, it could even help you out in those tricky social situations you run into when traveling. Like say you're at a market and want to haggle for a souvenir, but you're not sure how to do it politely. You could just discreetly ask the device for some tips.
That's so smart. Get to save you from some awkward moments and help you blend in a little better. But beyond the practical stuff, do you think ChatGPT could actually make the whole travel experience better, more fun?
Well, instead of just looking at a list of tourist traps in a guidebook, imagine having a conversation with this device about what you actually like, and it suggests places based on your interests.
Like a custom-made itinerary, just for you.
Exactly. It could even point you to local events, festivals, hidden gems you wouldn't find in any guidebook.
Wow, that takes personalized travel to a whole new level. It's like having a friend who knows you really well, planning the perfect trip. But is there a risk of relying on this thing too much? Could it create a kind of digital bubble that actually prevents us from experiencing the culture?
That's a good point. We've got to find that balance, right? Using tech to make things better, but not letting it isolate us from real experiences.
So maybe it's about using it strategically, like to break down those language barriers, get recommendations, and then putting it away to really connect with the people and places around us.
Exactly. Technology should empower us, not wall us off. And let's be real, even with the coolest gadgets, nothing can replace genuine human connection. Those unplanned conversations, those are the moments we really remember, right?
Absolutely. Those are the moments that make a trip special. Well, I think we've covered a lot today, from the nuts and bolts of this AI translator to how it could change the way we travel and communicate.
We've seen what it can do, talked about its limits, and even thought about what it means for society. But the big question is, how would you use this technology?
Would you use it to explore the world, connect with new people, or would you be wary of it, worried about how it might change things? It's something to think about as technology keeps advancing.
And who knows what's next, right? Maybe someday we will have those universal translators from Star Trek, no more language barriers at all.
That would be amazing. But until then, we've got this pretty incredible device to help us bridge the gap and connect with people from all over the world. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and maybe feel inspired to see the world a little differently.
And as always, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking questions. That's what makes life interesting.